Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to do an overview of my pedal board, and I haven't done an overview of my pedal board since early 2016, so it's been about 5 years now. So I thought I might update you guys who are interested in guitars and guitar pedals, what my current pedal board looks like. So I haven't played too much guitar these days, but sometimes I do still jam once in a while, and a lot of these pedals are pedals I bought from maybe a few years ago. And some new pedals actually I got this year as well, just to try them out. So some of these pedals are the same as the ones I had before, and others are different. So I just want to do a brief overview of each one and show you guys why I picked these pedals and give a demonstration of each as well. So first of all, I'm going to go over my equipment as well. So in my previous 2016 video, I had a Xotic Atomic Junior as my main amp. I've changed that out for a Milkman 1 Watt Plus. So this is the Milkman 1 Watt Plus. This is my main amp that I've been using since 2017, because later in that year I changed my Xotic Atomic Junior out. I got the Milkman 1 Watt Plus. And the reason for that is just because the Milkman is bigger. It has a bigger speaker, it's a bigger cabinet, it has more headroom, and of course it was actually hand wired in San Francisco. So it was made in San Francisco by one guy. And that's actually pretty convenient because I was living in San Francisco at the time, so that means whenever I wanted repairs for this amp, which I did have to do once, I literally just went to that guy's place in San Francisco and he repaired it for me on the spot. So that's actually pretty convenient, right? I did like the Xotic Atomic Junior's reverb and portability, and the fact that it breaks up a little bit easier is really cool. So the Xotic Atomic Junior is still a really good amp. But for me, this was a bigger upgrade, bigger cabinet, bigger speakers, still reasonably lightweight. The Atomic Junior was like 14 pounds. This one's like 24. So it's heavier, but not by as much as you think it would be, given the size. So that's why I don't like really heavy amps, right? And tube amps are usually very heavy. So that's what originally drew me to this Xotic Atomic Junior was that it was only 14 pounds for the size. That was for a small tube amp. That's really, really good. And the Milkman is... It's called a 1 Watt Plus, but yeah, it doesn't have the reverb that the Xotic Atomic Junior has, but it has a bigger cabinet, bigger speakers, more headroom, and doesn't weigh that much more. So that's why I went for the Milkman, and plus it was in my home, in the city that I was living in at the time, so that was definitely more convenient. Another thing about the 1 Watt Plus is that you can actually scale the power level. So I have it set to about here right now, but yeah. It has a built-in attenuator, which is nice. I don't think the Atomic Junior really needed that because they're so small, but for an amp of this size, it's really nice to have this attenuator so you can play at bedroom levels. So you can basically scale up the wattage to however high or low you want it. So that's really nice considering I usually play at home. And then my guitars, I still have the trusty Fender Stratocaster, which I've had since 2009. Yes, so I've had this guitar for about 12 years now, which is a very long time. And the only major difference you'll notice from when you last saw it in my last video is that the pickguard changed. So I changed out the pickguard. This was originally just a standard white pickguard, and I changed it out for this is the Jimi Hendrix Monterey pickguard that actually was used in the original Fender Monterey Stratocaster replica. So this is not the actual one that Jimi Hendrix actually painted himself, or it's not like a replica of that one. It's slightly different, but this is the first one that Fender came out with actually when they made the first Monterey Stratocaster replica back in 1997. And this is the pickguard they had. I really like this design, so changed out the pickguard. Everything else is pretty much the same. The pickups are still the Rumpelstiltskin hand-wound pickups that I ordered way back in 2010. So yeah, these are still the same hand-wound pickups from Rumpelstiltskin, which is pretty nice. I never felt the need to change them out. It really fits with the aged look of this guitar because I asked for it to be aged as well. They're pretty low output, like 5.8, 5.8, 6.3. I remember I got a custom wound for me by the guy, you know, who runs Rumpelstiltskin, whose name is Aaron. He lives in Virginia. He hand winds these pickups at his own personal company, right? Rumpelstiltskin Pickups. I believe he's still in business, so you can still order custom pickups from him. But yeah, I had these custom wound for me back in 2010. Yeah, this is a 5.8 Alnico 3, 5.8 Alnico 5, 6.3K Alnico 5. That's my settings for that. My specs. Alright, and then you can see that this guitar is a kind of a road-worn guitar. The original model was a Fender road-worn Strat that I got way back in 2009, so it has nitro lacquer, so it has natural natural aging on the lacquer. So it's been a good 12 years, and still has these check marks that I got original, plus some new ones that have been created as well. So it's a mix of new, it's a mix of the factory nitro check marks plus some new ones that added in as I played this guitar for such a long time as my main guitar. And then yeah, it's a rosewood neck. And of course, this is a Fender American neck. Originally, this was a Mexican Strat. The Road One series was originally Mexican, but I put the American neck on it. The body is still Mexican, I believe, but there's really not much difference from the American body. I really like it. So yeah, I'll be using this guitar for this video as well, just to keep it more consistent. I use this guitar for the other videos, and it's the guitar I'm most familiar with. So I'm going to use the Fender Strat. And then I got the Duesenberg Joe Walsh Alliance and the GNL ASAT Special. These guitars are more deluxe, more premium looking than my Fender Strat, and that's only because my Fender Strat is kind of like a relic guitar, so it looks really vintage. But these ones look really, really premium. Not relic at all, right? They look pretty modern. But yeah, these guitars look really nice. I do play all three of these guitars I play on different occasions. I wouldn't say I play one more than the other. They all have different sounds, right? The Fender Strat has single coils. The Duesenberg has mini humbucker, and which is kind of like a Filtertron almost, and a P90 style pickup. And then the GNL ASAT has those magnetic field design pickups, which are kind of similar to Jazzmaster pickups. So they all have different sounds, and I use them for different songs and different tunes. So it really depends on which one, on my mood as well. So it depends which one I want to use. But yeah, these are the three main electric guitars that I use. Alright, so now we come to the main part of this video, which is the pedals. Now, which pedals have changed since 2016? There's a lot. So now I have 12 pedals, but I only really use 6 of them. So I use less pedals than before. Before I used to like fill up this pedal board full of pedals. Now I decided to use less pedals at a time. So you can see I'm only using 6 pedals. I'm only using half of my pedals because I just don't need to use that many effects at a time. So I just kind of swap them out whenever I need them. They're powered by the BBE supercharger. This is a pedal supply. This is one I choose to use. I know the Voodoo Lab is also pretty popular, but I went with the BBE because they're pretty nice, good value brand that I trust. So the supercharger does well powering these pedals. And then we can go through each of these pedals one by one. So I have the good old BBE wah. This pedal I've had, this was in the last video as well. This pedal I've had for a long time, and I don't really intend to swap it out or anything. It's a really nice wah pedal. It's made by BBE, which is a company that's known for making really good value pedals, like the Sonic Stomp and stuff like that. So I've had a few of their pedals before, the Two Timer, the Green Screamer. Those are all really nice pedals, the Booster Grand. So they make really good value pedals, and the circuit designs are all really nice as well, very like vintage spec. And this one is based off of a 1960s Clyde McCoy wah, and they have the halo inductor inside of it. So that's pretty vintage spec, and it's pretty cheap as well. I think you can only get this for like $100 or something like that, pretty cheap. You can also adjust the Q with the harmony. Right, you can adjust the envelope here. So yeah, that's basically everything I want, and I've used it for a few years. There's really no reason for me to use a different pedal. This wah pedal works really nice, and I felt no need to switch it out. Right, it's a nice vintage sounding wah pedal. All right, next up I have another pedal that I had in my last video as well, which is the Boss Wazacraft TU3W tuner, and this is just a guitar tuner. That's all it does. Of course, it's a Wazacraft one, so there's actually a few different settings on this. You can actually choose to have the buffered or the true bypass, right? So buffered is the original setting for the tuner pedal, which is really nice to have when you have a big pedal chain, right? You want to maintain your highs, then you keep it buffered. You always have at least one buffered pedal in your chain. And then if you do use, like maybe you don't use a lot of pedals, or you have another buffer already, so then you just go to true bypass mode instead, if that's your settings. But I mostly keep it in buffered mode because I use this as my buffered pedal. This and the Boss Looper are basically my buffered pedals. The rest of my pedals are true bypass, so that's fine. But if I have this true bypass as well, then you know some of my highs are going to drop if I have a long signal chain. So that's why I have to have at least one buffered pedal at the beginning of my chain. And then has 2 adapter settings here. This one is made in Taiwan but inspected in Japan. Interesting. Okay, well, anyways, this is my main tuner. It's a tuner pedal. What else can I say? All right, next pedal is the Wampler Tumnus. So this is a overdrive pedal that I use sometimes. This is a pretty versatile pedal because this is based on a Klon Centaur, and K-type pedals people usually use as either a boost or just to add a little bit more grit onto their overdrive signal. They usually don't use a K-type pedal just as a sole overdrive, but like a stacking overdrive, right? That's what I use this for as well. This is more like a stacking overdrive. I'll usually pair this with the Maxon or the Euphoria. But yeah, the Tumnus is the one. They'll add just a little bit of boost or a grit onto your pedal. Doesn't color the sound all too much, but it adds like it definitely adds a little bit more hair onto your signal. So it's pretty nice, and it's a mini size as well, right? I don't have the deluxe version, but part of the reason is because I like to have my input jacks on the sides, and some of these have the input jacks on top, which kind of messes up my pedal chain. So that kind of influences what types of pedals I can get as well. I like to have my pedals. Right now, I know the trend is to have the pedals inputs on top, but I like to still have them on the side because most of my pedals are like that, right? So I want to keep them all the same. But yeah, the 3 settings: gain, volume, treble. Pretty simple overdrive pedal, mostly used as a stacking overdrive. So it's a Wampler Tumnus, which I have, and then I have the Maxon TOD9, which replaces my Maxon TB09, which I had before. The difference is that the TB09 was mostly like a transparent booster overdrive type of pedal, which I don't need anymore because I now have the Tumnus, which kind of fulfills that role. So I didn't need that kind of transparent boost overdrive pedal that was based on the Maxon VOP9. So now the TOD9 is actually based on the Maxon OD808, right, which is the tube screamer. So this is really just a tube screamer with a tube powered on it. So this is has a sub-miniature tube in it, and yeah, it basically has all the tube screamer controls, right? Drive, level, and tone, and then it has an extra tube drive knob. So now you can mix in the tube power signal with the original solid state distortion signal. So yeah, so this is a pretty nice overdrive circuit to use because it's just a tube screamer type of circuit plus the tube overdrive on top of that, right? So you have the tube distortion on top of the tube screamer circuit, which gives it a little bit of an interesting take on the tube screamer, right? It's basically the tube screamer sound. You got that mid-range hump, which everyone loves, and then you have some extra like compression from the tubes, I would say. So that's why I like to have this pedal. It's just a nice take on the tube screamer. So yeah, I was thinking about the Maxon, there's the Maxon Apex 808, the Ibanez new tube screamer, like all these different tube screamer pedals. But I prefer the TOD9. Just adds a little bit of an interesting take on the tube screamer, right? And you have a tube powered pedal, so it adds like more compression and a little bit more warmth to it. So it's a nice overdrive pedal to have. Good as your main overdrive, right? Because it colors your signal. And then you have probably the most versatile overdrive pedal I have, which also was in my previous video as well, the Wampler Euphoria. Yeah, it's just so versatile. That's why I still have this pedal. So you have 4 knobs: tone, bass, which actually adds bass. This isn't actually a traditional bass knob. It's not like if you go to this you have 0 bass. It's like it adds additional bass onto what you already have. You have gain and volume, and it's marketed as a natural transparent overdrive. Although it can do many things, it can kind of mimic a Klon Centaur at times. If you have it on the right settings, it can also mimic like a Dumble style overdrive pedal, like a Hermida Zen drive on some settings as well. So it really depends. You have the smooth, open, and crunch. I find that even in some, the smooth settings sometimes can even emulate like a Chandler tube driver, right? So this can really emulate so many different overdrive pedals, which is why I have it. Such a versatile overdrive pedal. So smooth, open, crunch. Different voicings that can emulate kind of different overdrive pedals, K-style overdrives, like Dumble type overdrives, D-types. Maybe not the tube screamer, right? I don't think it can really be like a tube screamer, but other types of overdrives that can definitely try to pick up like various types. So that's why it's so versatile, and I really love it. So this is the pedal I use for a lot of situations. So yeah, these are the 3 overdrives that I have. The Wampler Tumnus being a Klon type for more like kind of a booster stacking overdrive, and then the TOD9 is like my tube screamer type, and this is going to be the meat of my overdrive signal. And then I have a really versatile overdrive that I can use for pretty much anything. I can stack them with these 2, or I can just use it by itself. So that one's versatile. And then I have the Boss DM2W delay. I think in my old video I used the Keeley magnetic echo. But yeah, this one is pretty good as well as an analog delay. It's a reissue of the original DM2. So the DM2W I think is a really warm sounding delay for me. It's a nice analog delay. I guess people can compare this to the MXR carbon copy, but they sound a little bit different. The carbon copy is a little bit more darker. I think they also have a carbon copy bright, which is more in line with what the DM2W offers. But yeah, DM2W is a really nice delay, and because it's a Xotic, it adds a few more settings. So you have the standard, which you have the repeat rate, intensity, and echo, and then the custom version will add like even more delay. So add like 900 milliseconds or something like that. Standard's like 300 milliseconds. So definitely, this one is pretty nice to have. It's versatile, right? It's a Xotic, so Boss is built to last. And has a few more settings because of the Xotic. Yeah, it's just a really overall nice sounding analog delay, and I preferred it to the MXR carbon copy. So, as well as the Way Huge Octopus and the magnetic echo. So that's why I chose this one. All right, now let's look at some of the pedals on my pedal board I have set up right now. So this is the Dunlop EP101 Echoplex preamp. So this one I have because it just adds a little bit of something to your signal. It's like a special sauce that you add for your signal. No, really, I mean, this is exactly how this pedal is marketed, right? It is a boost pedal, and I guess you can call it a preamp type of pedal. So it's very similar to the other special sauce booster pedals on the market. I believe Catalan Bread made one as well because they had the Bella Epoch, which includes the Echoplex preamp on it. So they marketed it separately. They separated it out into a different pedal. And then the Xotic EP booster has always been on the market, right? So this is Dunlop's take because they actually own the Echoplex name, and they just separated the preamp part of the Echoplex out and made it its own pedal, which is basically just a boost that adds a little bit of it's hard to quantify, but it's like a little bit of high end to a signal. I would say, yeah, it's different, right? It's like if you turn this on and off, the difference is very, very subtle, but you can hear it. It just adds a little bit of high end to your signal. I used to have the BBE Sonic Stomp, which also kind of, it's also kind of like an always on pedal that you would just leave on all the time, just like this one, except it's like a processing pedal. So you would take it felt like it was taking my signal and it just processed it, right? It added a little bit more high end and everything to it. But for me, this one sounded a little bit more natural than the BBE Sonic Stomp, right? The BB Sonic Stomp sounded like a little bit maybe artificial in adding those high-end signals and tightening up the signal, but this one just does it a little bit more naturally. So that's why I kept this one and got rid of the Sonic Stomp. Not that the Sonic Stomp is a bad pedal. It's a good pedal too. Just a little bit too processed for me. And I know that there's a process knob and you can fiddle around with it, but still I think the Echoplex preamp for me sounds more natural. So that's why I'm using this one to add a little bit of high end, a little bit of secret sauce to my signal, which I always leave on. So I always put this pedal in my chain, I always leave it on. And then I have the BBE window pane, which is a silicone fuzz. Now, there's two main types of fuzzes, right? There's silicone fuzz and germanium fuzz. Silicone fuzz usually is, people consider it like has higher gain and like harsher or whatever, and germanium is more warm, but that's basically just generalizations. BBE took the transistors in here and biased them a little bit and rolled off the high end a little bit more, so it's not as harsh. So this is a silicon fuzz that behaves like a germanium fuzz, which is really what you want, because germanium fuzz is not reliable under different temperatures. So silicon fuzz is more reliable, and plus you just want to have the warm sound of the germanium sound. So that's what BBE did. So yeah, great company because they make such good value pedals. This was just like, I bought this for like $60, and it's just amazing the amount of value you get out of it. So this is taking probably what I consider to be a Dallas Arbiter fuzz face kind of circuit, and then rolling off the highs a little bit more to sound like a germanium. Well, they're using a silicon transistor, but they roll off the high end to sound like a germanium pedal. So that's pretty nice. And just two knobs here because fuzz is a simple circuit. But yeah, this is my fuzz. And then I have the Xotic compressor, which is my compressor pedal. I always have this in my chain because a compressor basically tightens up your signal, and really it takes, for me, what I use compressor for is it takes in all the signal that comes before it, and it kind of like squeezes it into like one signal, if you can imagine that way. Like if all these are different tracks, this kind of like mixes them into one track. I'm thinking of like a recording studio, but yeah, that's for me, that's how I use a compressor. And then it kind of mixes it into one track, blends it all. You can adjust the volume of all the signals that came before it. So yeah, that's what I use the compressor for. And there's so many compressors on the market. The Keeley compressor is also a good one, but for me, yeah, I used the Xotic SP compressor. This was in my original video as well, so you know it's good when I've held it for over 5 years. Still using it. This is a new pedal that I got. This is the Boss Dimension C DC2W, which is based off of the Roland STD 320 rack mount unit, which they added here, as well as the old 80s version of this pedal. And this is a very interesting pedal. I'm still not sure if I really like it or not, or if I want to keep it on my chain. But I've been experimenting with it because this is like a chorus pedal, but it's not really a chorus pedal. It's like a chorus that isn't too chorusy, if that makes any sense, right? So it modulates the signal, and it doesn't do it in a way that's very, very noticeable. It's like a very subtle effect, and that's what I like about it, because I usually don't like choruses, right? Because they're not very subtle, and they add too much spatiality to the signal, like too much, right? But the DC2W is a reissue of the old pedal, which they don't make anymore, and they have 4 different settings. You can, because it's Wazacraft, so you have extra settings here for the STD 320, the original Roland rack mount unit that different artists used back in the 80s. You have that setting as well. For me, I usually keep it on the STD 320 setting, and there's 4 different variations depending on how thick you want the signal to be. But yeah, for me, I'm actually experimenting with this pedal. Still not sure if I really want to keep it on my board or not, but it's very, very interesting because it's a chorus type pedal, but not chorusy, right? It's not too much. So it's a very, very subtle effect. Still experimenting with it. And then I have the Keeley Omni Reverb, which I've had for a while as well. This is a pedal that also pretty much never leaves my board. Because my one thing about the Milkman, like I said, my amp, it doesn't have a reverb like my Swart Atomic Jr. did. It doesn't have any kind of built-in spring reverb. So that means I have to have a reverb pedal, right? So reverb is one of those effects that pretty much everyone has to, like, everyone should have, right, on their board or their amp, just because it adds such of a subtle effect, and it's an effect that pretty much everyone wants, right? So yeah, reverb is nice. You have these 2 knobs, dual level, and you have 3 main types of reverbs here, which is room, spring, and plate. And that's really all it's necessary, right? Room, spring, plate, that's all the different types of reverbs that most people look for. If you want more reverb, you can look for the Digitech pedals. I think the Supernatural, whatever. Robert Keeley himself actually makes a whole bunch of other reverbs, like the Hook reverb and stuff. So, and then, you know, of course, all the other companies make their own reverb pedals, Electro Harmonics, right? And then you have the TC Electronic Hall of Fame. Like, there's all these different reverb pedals. For me, I just want a very, very simple reverb pedal with all the basic settings. So, okay, the 3 settings that most people want to use, room, spring, and plate. That's pretty much it. So, that's all this pedal does, and that's good enough for me. So I've had it on my board pretty much all the time ever since. And then I have the Boss Looper pedal, which is an upgrade over the original. So I used to have the RC3 pedal. I sold it and got the RC5, so this one is pretty much an improvement in every way because it adds more memory and you can do a lot more with the settings on it, and then it has a lot more rhythms as well, right? The original RC3 only had like 7 different rhythms. This one has like a lot. Didn't even count. But I did a video on this pedal already. It's basically a looper that I pretty much always use because I play by myself. I don't play with a band, so I always use this pedal. I have it on my board all the time. If there's one pedal that I had to take out of all these pedals, and I can only take one, I would take this one. Because without this pedal, honestly, I wouldn't be able to really play many songs. Like, I would play them, but I wouldn't have any backing track, right? So it wouldn't sound as good. So this is a pretty important pedal for me, just to have a looper pedal. And because I play by myself at home, so looper pedal is pretty important. And this one is an upgrade over the original RC3 that I had. So yeah, the RC5 is definitely pretty vital for me. Of course, I can connect it to my computer, add in backing tracks and stuff like that. But yeah, there's just more settings, more rhythms, more memory. So yeah, it's a no-brainer upgrade for me from the RC3. Alright, so now let's do a demo of all these pedals. First of all, I'll show you my other accessories too, which I did in my previous video as well. So for comparison, now I'm using bullet cables. So these are coiled cables, and I've been using for a while. I think they're pretty good. mostly for the aesthetics. So yeah, I think the sound quality is good and the aesthetics are nice, so I choose bullet cables for the coiled cables. And then for my other coiled cable, I'm using a Fender Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child type of cable, which is also a coiled cable. Not that different from the bullet cable, it's almost similar. Just another coiled cable. Has these nice vintage style pancake connectors, which I like as well. So just for the aesthetics. Then for the patch cables, I'm using the Mogamis. So these are all Mogami patch cables. So those are my cables. And then for my strings, no difference. I'm still using my Elixir strings that I used before. Really, I've tried a whole bunch of other strings like Sonotones and Ernie Balls, Darios, Dean Markley's, Curtis Mangan. I've tried so many different strings, but nothing beats the Elixir strings for me. Just the coated strings and stuff last such a long time, and they stay in tune pretty well, so I just never felt the need to change them out. Alright, first I'm going to demo my tuner. I know it's a little bit boring to demo a tuner, but yeah, the Boss chromatic tuner, Wazacraft version. Really the only thing Wazacraft about it is that you can change between true bypass and buffered bypass. But yeah, I'm going to demo it anyways. I know it's boring to demo a tuner, but I'm going to demo it anyways because I need to tune my guitar. So you guys might as well see it in action. I think I only need to hook that up, right? So yeah. Hook my Fender Stratocaster up, which I'm going to use for demoing. Alright. Oh yeah, so definitely I need to tune all these guitars. Okay. Okay, so I know this is kind of boring, but this way you guys can see how the tuner works, and then I'll be in tune for playing as well. Okay. Okay, so I think that's good. I usually use the tuner, leave the tuner or my preamp at the beginning of the chain because, like I said, I like to have a buffered pedal on my chain, and both of these are buffered pedals. So usually the tuner I only use for tuning, right? And then I just take it off the chain. Sometimes I'll leave it in for the buffered stuff, but since I don't have a long signal chain here, I can also use my preamp pedal here for the buffered. So this one, let's just demo by putting this one back in the chain. Since I always have this pedal in my chain, I'm gonna put it there and leave it there. Alright, and the next one, let's see the delay. Yeah, I'll probably have the delay here. Though, actually, let's demo like an overdrive and like a modulation effect. So I'm not going to demo the wah first of all because I need to use my feet for this, and it's kind of big. And you guys have already, if you guys have seen my other videos on YouTube, you can probably already hear how the wah sounds. So I don't need to demo the wah, I think. But the other pedals, I'm going to demo overdrive or distortion type pedal plus a modulation effect. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to have the delay here first. So let's do that. Okay, and then I'm going to have a overdrive effect, distortion. Actually, got to have my compressor. Yeah, that's right. So compressor has to be here as well. It's like a pedal I'm always leaving on my chain. Okay. Okay, and the next pedal is going to be an overdrive pedal. Now, which one should I use here? Let's test out the fuzz first. Okay, the fuzz is pretty easy pedal to hear how it sounds. All right. Okay, so there's my signal chain for now, and I'm going to demo all these pedals right now, and I'll demo the other ones. I'll swap the other ones in, because these ones are kind of like the ones I want to swap in. I usually have these 4 pedals always on my pedal board. The reverb, the compressor, and the preamp always on my pedal board. These 2 are the ones I usually swap out. So the modulation effect, either the chorus or the delay, and then the overdrive pedal I usually swap out for one of these. Sometimes I may want to stack an overdrive, and then I'll put an extra pedal in the chain, but for most of the time I just have like one overdrive or distortion effect in the chain. So, alright, so I'm going to put my amp out of standby. Every time we swap out I have to put into standby, or else you're going to hear a lot of buzzing. Alright, so this is the sound of my Strat on the neck middle position, which I usually use without any effects. It's very clean. There's also my amp turned up, the volume, treble, and bass all set to 6. So you guys can hear this is a very standard Fender single coil sound, right? Very clean. And the Milkman 1 Plus is a Fender based amp too, so it's also very clean. It's based on the old Fender Tweeds. So yeah, and that's the sound of my guitar. The neck setting I'm going to pick up. Okay. Right, now I'm going to turn on the reverb pedal, and you guys will understand why reverb is so important. It's such a nice subtle effect to add. So now it's set to the room setting, so you guys can hear what the room setting sounds like. See the difference? So if I don't have reverb on, this is how it sounds like. If I have reverb on, this is what it sounds like. See, that subtle effect is really nice to have. So that's why most people have reverb on either their amp or their pedal, and it's like always on. Right? It's just a really nice setting to always have on. This might be a little bit much. I'll just turn it down a little bit. Okay, like this. It's a really nice subtle effect to have. So that's the room reverb setting, right? So room reverb sounds like this. Right, now the spring reverb setting, which is on a lot of the old Fender amps back in the day. Sounds like this. I know the difference is really subtle, but it's a different type of reverb. And then they got plate reverb, which was used in a lot of studios back then. I know it's a very, very subtle difference, but maybe you guys can hear it. So again, room setting. Spring reverb setting. And then the plate setting. So all very subtle differences, but it's really nice to have reverb regardless. Just adds that to your sound. And even on the spring setting maybe. I mean, it just makes sense considering I'm playing a Fender into a Fender style amp. So yeah, spring reverb, I'll leave it on there, and then you turn on the preamp. So the preamp effect is also very subtle because just the boost with adds a little bit of high end to the signal. So once you add the preamp on, if you guys can hear the differences. So this is with the preamp off, and with the preamp on. The difference is very, very subtle, but it adds a little bit of something extra onto the signal. So I always have this one on. The off. Turn it on. So a little bit of extra high end. This pedal always on. The preamp is really nice to have. It just adds a little bit of something extra, just like with the reverb. So these are always on pedals, and then compressor. Yeah, so if I turn the compressor on, I can adjust the volume however I want. I can have it as low as I want, as high as I want. Yeah, that's what a compressor does, and it blends in. I can set it for Xotic compressor. There's 3 settings, so there's a high, low, and mid setting. So right now I have it to the high setting, the low setting. It's slightly different, I guess. It blends the signal in a slightly different way, or different frequencies maybe. In the mid setting, blends the mid frequencies. Let's cover the differences between these. High setting blends, then low setting blending, mid signal blending. Yeah, maybe I'll just leave it on high, volume set to around. Yeah, compressors also kind of, to me, it's like a master volume almost. It's like you're mixing everything and then you change it with like a master control. Right, so you can change every one of your signals is blended in, and then you can adjust it with like a master control knob. So yeah, it's a compressor. And the delay is also a pretty noticeable setting, because right now this is a Boss delay. Right, it sounds almost like a let's say turn the reverb off and you guys can hear. If you add it onto the reverb, yeah, it's not too noticeable because I have everything set to pretty low here on the knobs. But once I switch it up, like if I turn up the intensity of it, and then you guys can hear it better. Right, if I turn up the repeat rate, intensity, then you guys can hear it better. The difference of this delay. I'll change it to custom mode. Oh yeah, that's where it gets really kind of crazy. If I change it to custom. Yeah, so okay, custom mode is really kind of crazy because the repeats. We're going to keep it on standard mode. I don't really use custom mode unless you want to do some really crazy stuff. You guys can hear the effect. This is what a delay does. It adds delay onto the signal. Yeah, I don't want to turn up too high. That's what happens. So usually when I use delay, leave it on lower settings better, because it's just, if you turn it up too high it gets overwhelming. So just leave it on low. If you leave it on low, it's a pretty subtle, almost like a reverb, right? If you leave it on low settings, pretty subtle, just like a reverb. If you turn it up high, then it gets kind of crazy. So that's really what a delay is. So yeah, that's a delay. And then now the fuzz obviously is a pretty noticeable effect. So right now everything's set to middle. Actually not too much change, because with this fuzz I think, yeah, I need to turn things a little bit higher. So if I turn the fuzz up, now you guys can hear the difference. Now you guys can hear the fuzz, right? Turn the fuzz up, turn the volume up. Yeah, once you turn up the fuzz, then you start to hear more of it. If I leave it on just the noon setting, it's not too noticeable. Right, it's not that much distortion yet. It's until you turn up the fuzz, and then it sounds crazy. I really want that higher. top of that, so now the whole effect is signature. That's fuzz. You can get that Hendrix sound. Widely used in a lot of classic rock. Alright, so I'm going to change out the pedals. You guys can hear something different. Alright guys, so now I changed out the pedals so you guys can hear some of how the other pedals sound like. So I kept the preamp on just because this is an always on pedal that tightens up my high end. Again, that's my clean signal. Then now I have put the tumness on, which is a Klon type overdrive. You guys can hear what it sounds like. So that's a Klon type, K type overdrive, which is supposed to be like a more transparent type of overdrive. So adds a bit of grit to your tone without coloring it too much is what it's meant for. You can always turn the gain up, of course. So of course it can be loud if you want it to be loud. So that's a tumness. And then this is the Euphoria, which is a very versatile type of overdrive. You can turn all the knobs to 12, except for the bass. Yeah. Type of overdrive. Right now set to the smooth setting, which is kind of like you consider this more like a Dumble type of setting. Then you kind of have an open setting. A little bit more distortion now. Sounding more like a Chandler tube driver type of setting right here. The open setting. It's a very nice breakup, very natural sounding breakup. Again, it's not too coloring your sound. It's supposed to be transparent as well. So just like the K-type pedal, like the tumness, doesn't add too much color to your tone. But at the same time, it's a really nice overdrive to stack with other effects. So yeah, I'm gonna probably try stacking these again later. But yeah, this is an open setting. The crunch setting adds even more gain. So yeah, this is a more distortion. So I'll go back to the smooth setting. Yeah, that one's supposed to be transparent as well, and then you got the Maxon 2D9, which is a tube screamer with a tube attached. So right now, if you want to hear just the tube screamer, let's have just a tube screamer without any tube at all. Definitely hear this one is coloring my tone more because it's a tube screamer, so there's a mid-range hump now. The tube now, if you add the tube blend into the signal, you should have a little bit more compression there. So definitely the tube screamer colors my sound more than the other two overdrives. And then this is the chorus pedal, which you guys can hear. It's a very unique sound, actually. Right, so like a nice swirly effect, right? So it's similar to a chorus in the terms of the effects on the sound. It's a modulation pedal that adds a swirly effect. So this is the STD 320 setting. Change it to a standard DC2 setting. Very subtle difference. And of course I can up 3. So it becomes more and more pronounced, right, as I go up to the Let's switch back to SD 320, which I usually use, the second setting. Third setting. And fourth setting. So now that's basically, you can see the swirling chorus effect. I usually leave it on 1 because the other one's a little bit too intense for me. 1 is like the least subtle. I mean, 1 is like the most subtle out of all these different settings. The STD 320 mode on the 1 setting is the most subtle. I'm going to stack some overdrives on it. Let's add the Wampler on it. Add the Euphoria onto that. And add the Maxon. Three overdrives on is a little bit too much, okay? That's too many overdrives. Having just 2 overdrives on is probably the max I would go. So yeah, the Wampler and the Euphoria, the Euphoria, they're both Wampler. The Euphoria and the Tumness both on is it's interesting because they're both supposed to be like transparent overdrives. Tumness and now the tube screamer. So this is a classic combination, a Klon type plus tube screamer type. Combination tube screamer plus Klon, and then you got tube screamer plus, let's add the Euphoria onto it. Combination of that. They're both pretty interesting effects. You can see that once you add the Maxon, the tube screamer effect kind of dominates overall and colors the tone the most, but if you leave these two on, adds a little bit more grit to the signal on top of that. So very, very interesting. Alright, now let's do just a final run through with my looper pedal and use all these combination pedals together. Alright, so this is the combination I'm going to go with. I have my Echoplex preamp, because this is my always on pedal. And then I have the 2 most versatile overdrives I have that are both kind of transparent, the Tumness and the Euphoria. And then I have the Xotic compressor to tighten up my signal. And then I have the reverb, which is another always on pedal, and I have my looper as well. So now you guys can see pretty much all these pedals in action. And on a signal chain that I think can be usable with the loop that I'm going to play. So yeah, I've got to actually set the loop level because it's always too loud. So this thing about the RC3 is that sometimes the looper pedal, the loop levels always have to be changed because it's too loud by default. So I actually have to set it all the way down to 2. That's right. It starts out like 100 and to set it like all the way down to 2 to actually get it to a usable setting. Otherwise it's too loud. I'm going to turn everything on. So again, This is my clean signal without anything. Then we add the preamp. A little bit more high end. Then we add the reverb, of course. Set to about there. Then let's add the compressor on top of that. And then we add the Tumnus on top of that. And we add the Euphoria on top of that. This is a little bit loud, so I can always adjust it with the compressor here and use that one as my master volume. See how that works? So the compressor actually takes in all the signals before it and can adjust them all together, right? So actually, you can see it works best with a bunch of overdrives and distortions in front of it, so I can adjust the volume however loud I want it. So it's almost like I can attenuate my signal, right? It's like a master mixing volume here. Because this is like too loud, right? Too loud. Yeah, I'm just gonna set it to about here. That way I keep the same level of distortion from these two pedals, same level of overdrive, right, to my signal, but I just mix it down a little bit so it's more usable. It's not gonna blow my ears off. All right, so I'm gonna play my loop now. that's good for that one. And then we're gonna try another loop. Let's try, let's see. Alright, so I changed out a pedal. I took out the Euphoria and I put in the Boss Dimension C. That's because for this song I don't need as much distortion or overdrive, so I took that out and added, I wanted to add a few different effects and try out something different. Okay, so I'm gonna move this down to another loop I have stored, and let's see. Okay, yeah, that's definitely too loud. Stupid thing is I always need to adjust this loop level every time. It needs to go down to 2. Okay. Alright, so let's try out. I'm going to move to plate reverb for one setting, the chorus, and then compressor at this level, and tumbles on this level. Okay, let's give it a shot. Okay. That's it, guys. That's my pedal board, and that's my pedal board. And if you guys have any questions about it, please let me know in the comment section. So a lot has changed from 2016. Some things have stayed the same, but a lot has changed as well. I added a bunch of new pedals. As you can see, got 12 pedals overall. Only really use 6 of them at a time though. But yeah, let me know about my selections, and if you guys have any questions about any of these pedals, or in combination with each other, yeah, if you guys have any other questions about my rig in general. So anyways guys, that's it. As always, thanks for watching.